Mansarin kilinye Dika masumakunda Amudu Bojang Waye sangarango Mansarin kilinye Dika masumakunda Amudu Bojang Waye sangarango Munala kilinye Dika masumakunda Amudu Bojang Waye sangarango Bojang sangaranga ini urara ilodula le bamanda wala dinambe jamuna ba modu yebangu dinkende ada fale pa modu ida be hiro lukono Gambia melie demokrasi murundi nanga Gambia kono eba modu Bojang sangaranga ilo de la bango yela bango bondi mola hiro media la hiro mola hiro media la hiro baringa nyine lo alisiyo to kabona manding kono adalla bada sangara madiba gonne bala dugun nimbala fa bala gana nin tawlajo mandi sibara mumeni sibi konne munnai sangaranga Masaya nyinina ita masaya nyinina mume kadi boda masa singule to Gambia atele kamanzaya birika mankulia landin sali Bojang wala wulu hutela bara edi nyuma wulu pamodu Bojang alamunni simayala Amudu Bojang sangarango Mansarun kilinye Dika masumakunda Amudu Bojang Waye sangarango Itala pada sefo bala dembo sandam Bojang Ibota alikali keke jamme Bojang bala Odamma ya yitandi komansa ule muiti Mansada Bojang kema pamodu ya seni saneke ala muisi maya imaje pamodu munayatina moja mae kanu moja mae no moja mala videla munatonya mole muidi pamodu wayo Mengbe Kering ikole sada Mengbe Kering muna Mengbe Kering ikole banke Mengbe Kering wayo Mengbe Kering ikawale fo wayo Mengbe Kering suredi yonkola pamodu wayo sangaranga ninko pamodu
Home Digital FM 99.9 in Burkina Town. For all the businessmen and women, move out of the darkness, follow the light. Come sell your business with us today. Home Home Digital FM, let your customers know what you're offering. Be on top of your competitors. Home Digital FM, we will help you stand out. Come advertise with us today for all your businesses. We offer live program coverage both on Facebook Live and on the radio. Exos to sell your products and services. The media is in control. Tell your customers when, where, and how to meet you through Home Digital FM. Don't worry. Do your business. We will sell you out. Call us today on 734-3125 or 200-5770, 620-1413, 766-8394. Home Digital FM. Follow the light.
Africa This Week, a new program that features and analyzes all the top news and events that took place across the continent during the week, is coming on Home Digital FM. The 1-hour Week in Review program will exhibit experts and commentators to look back on the news of the past 7 days and break down stories and issues across Africa that everyone is talking about. Africa This Week will feature Guest of the Week and engage people at the center of every key news, every story, in the best interactive, entertaining, and informative way possible. Africa This Week on Home Digital FM 99.9 every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. starting from next Saturday, October 22nd. Africa This Week with me, Bojang Jnr. See you there.
Yona Forex Bureau. Badi mori Yona Forex Bureau mi yalon ko felaliye Serakunda Bambo walla mu dulati dami yalon ko kodi kiyo anin kodi falingo nyinu mu nyonta wonde. Yona Forex Bureau iturbaliye Bambole ando fele ye kunda baso dale lat bakote mi yalon ko wolam Purple House ti. Mbadi mori atol mi yalon ko albe banko e bantala. Na lafta kodo kila nyinka mala alla moli ay tariya andaliye minki ye wosoto tariya nyama alfero ke aliyakini Yona Forex Bureau la atul mini yalon ko fanal be Gambia na lafta kodol de fali da kabri euro lomba fo pound lomba wala fo dollar ani nyin kodi dolu Yona Forex lon dolate mini yalon ko e kadadi ma di mi yalon ko ase kontan ando nyin kodi dolu fanan be bulu e lafta ke fali nin dala sola wala badi won kamune bato al nga ferol ke nganna kodol kini Yona Forex Bureau la ani nganna falindirol keni Yona Forex Bureau la dami yalon ko mbe bane hoda male sotola wakamara na lafta kuma ko sotola nyinol beto ali kumandi da telefono to 9000392683215173389998055526 badi ngolu Yona Forex Bureau wolle nata kan dahandi kodi kiyola anin kodi fali wala fannala walla Yona Forex Bureau ala baraka jarama.
Islamic microfinance is becoming an increasingly popular mechanism for poverty alleviation, especially for developing countries around the world. This microfinance service adheres to the principles of Islam as a form of social responsibility. Leone Islamic Microfinance is the Islamic microfinance of choice in the Gambia, trustworthy and reliable. At Leone Islamic Microfinance, we provide savings products, current accounts, financing products in conformity with Islam. In addition, Leone Islamic Microfinance also offers local and international remittances, takaful fund, management of zakat, management of awqaf, trading and investment, and building of strategic partnerships to bring financial services to the doorstep of the poor with donor projects, madrasas, youth organizations, women groups, and farmer organizations. Make a choice with Leone Islamic Microfinance today. For more information on Leone Islamic Microfinance, call 377-2151 or 9832-151 or visit Leone head office at Tipa Garage, Bakote, or visit any Leone branch located countrywide near you.
Africa This Week, a new program that features and analyzes all the top news and events that took place across the continent during the week, is coming on Home Digital FM. The 1-hour Week in Review program will exhibit experts and commentators to look back on the news of the past 7 days and break down stories and issues across Africa that everyone is talking about. Africa This Week will feature Guest of the Week and engage people at the center of every key news, every story, in the best interactive, entertaining, and informative way possible. Africa This Week on Home Digital FM 99.9 every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. starting from next Saturday, October 22nd. Africa This Week with me, Bojang Jnr. See you there. Greetings wherever you are, and a very warm welcome to the maiden edition of your Week in Review program, Africa This Week, looking at the top stories across the continent over the last 7 days. Coming up, 3 UN peacekeepers killed when their vehicle hit an improvised explosive device in northern Mali.
The peacekeepers were on a mine search and detection patrol. 3 other peacekeepers were also seriously injured and are receiving treatment in a UN hospital.
Burkina Faso's junta leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, inaugurated as president. Over 600 people died and 1.3 million displaced from their homes in flooding that has hit 33 of Nigeria's 36 states and the capital, Abuja. In South Africa, a 21-year-old man appeared in court in connection with the discovery of 6 decomposed bodies believed to be those of sex workers. Kenya's President William Ruto dissolved the police unit notorious for alleged extrajudicial killings.
The shame of Kenyans killed through extrajudicial killings and put in Yala River and other rivers, we're going to secure this country going into the future.
Uganda's President Museveni said he has banned his powerful son, a military general, from using Twitter following his series of reckless tweets against other countries and leaders. But the son clapped back, saying, "I am an adult and no one will ban me from anything." Tanzania's president called on women in her country to use birth control to reduce the nation's high birth rates. In sports,
Sadio Mane.
So the first winner of the Socrates Award goes to Sadio Mane.
A Senegalese star.
It was all smile for Senegal's Sadio Mane Monday night as he won France football's inaugural Socrates Award. Also coming up, our special guest, a successful Senegalese-born university professor in the US, on why she's scared for her 2 young sons in America.
I think any mother of a black child in America, especially a black boy, is scared at this time because in the past 3 years, you have seen the killing spree of black men in America.
These and much more on today's program. Stay with us.
Sheriff Bojang Jnr.
We start with Mali, where 3 United Nations peacekeepers were killed and 3 others seriously injured when their vehicle hit an improvised explosive device in the volatile northern part of the country Monday. Islamist militants, some with links to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, have been waging an insurgency in northern Mali for the last decade. The United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali, or MINUSMA, currently has about 12,000 military personnel deployed in the country, according to official figures. At least 174 peacekeepers have been killed in hostile acts since the start of the mission in 2013, making it the deadliest UN peacekeeping mission in the world. The latest deaths were announced in New York by UN Secretary General spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric.
Some more tragic news from Mali, where 3 United Nations peacekeepers died today when their vehicle hit an improvised explosive device in Tessalit in the Kidal region of Mali. The peacekeepers were on a mine search and detection patrol. 3 other peacekeepers were also seriously injured and are receiving treatment in a UN hospital. We send our deepest condolences to the families of the peacekeepers, to our colleagues in the mission, and we wish a speedy recovery to those who were injured. Just to give you some context, this is obviously the latest incident in what is already a very challenging environment for UN peacekeeping. This year, already 12 UN peacekeepers were killed in Mali in hostile acts.
Stéphane Dujarric, the spokesperson of the UN chief, Antonio Guterres. Meanwhile, one of the 3 peacekeepers who was injured Monday had died on Tuesday, bringing the death toll in the latest incident to 4. Still on the killings by jihadists, at least 3 soldiers and 8 civilian auxiliaries were killed in an attack in Burkina Faso's Restif North. A report by Reuters said the soldiers who were patrolling with the auxiliaries were caught in an ambush in the district of Burum. Another source quoted by Reuters said the death toll could rise, adding that 2 people were still unaccounted for. The latest attack came after a September 30th coup that ousted Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, who himself seized power in January, and a day after 34-year-old Captain Ibrahim Traoré was named as his successor as transitional president. Both coup leaders attributed their military coups to failures to stem a 7-year jihadist insurgency that has claimed thousands of lives and driven nearly 2 million people from their homes. So why is Burkina Faso's armed forces still struggling to cope with upsurge in the insurgency in the Restif North? I'm joined by Bram Postumus, a veteran Dutch journalist who has been covering and living in Burkina Faso as well as Mali and Guinea for more than 2 decades.
If you put Burkina in the regional context, it borders Mali, it borders Niger. You will see a pattern emerging of low-intensity conflict that came from the north of Mali, which is consistently moving south. And Burkina Faso, being in that zone, is one of the targets. The north of Burkina has been a target for the entire year. When we've had schools being burned down, there have been attacks against traditional chiefs, there have been attacks against local authorities, and all this has been under the radar because it's supposedly far away from the capital, although it's not even that far. I mean, if you go from Ouagadougou to Djibo in the north, it's 190 kilometers and you're there, which is very close to the Malian border. But I think looking at Burkina in isolation doesn't help to analyze exactly why this is going on. It's got to be taken into context with Mali and Niger and see that there is a regional issue happening here which pits disenfranchised young men using jihad as a cover for their actions against basically the establishment.
Also, another misconception about this armed attack or terrorist attack is that these attackers are after Western form of democracy, or they want to, for example, promote Islamic ideologies and things like that. But what you are saying, it also has to do with perhaps people being disenfranchised, people not happy with governance issue, or they lack the economic opportunities as citizens that might also have propelled them into these kind of issues.
I think that's very true, and I think it's a misconception to put this in the context, which is very beloved by especially Western media, of Islamic terrorists against everybody else. I think that misses a lot of the analysis of what should be also incorporated in how you view the situation. There is no doubt that Islam plays a role in this, but you have to analyze very specifically how that's happening. There is certainly a confrontation going on between two different strands of Islam. One that was born here in this region and which is open, cosmopolitan, tolerant, and which has been here for centuries and centuries. And the far more strict and far poorer interpretation, which comes from the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, which is commonly known as Wahhabism. And these are engaged in a clash which has been going on in this region for many, many years. This is not something entirely new. So yes, there is indeed a certain culture war, if you like, going on between these different strands of Islam. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you have to analyze again very, very clearly when these young men who do these attacks and the guys who shot up 18 people in Aziz, Istanbul were maybe 21, 22 years old, calling themselves jihadists. Is that a real jihadist? Is that born out of conviction? Or is that simply a cover to do something else? Is that a cover to sow terror in an area where there is another statement that you want to make, while there is another point you are trying to put across? And I think this is something that hasn't been unpacked sufficiently to be able to actually make a real sharp analysis of what's going on.
Veteran Dutch journalist Bram Posthumus on the line from Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso. In another development, Burkina Faso's junta leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, was Friday inaugurated as interim president. Traoré, 34, led disgruntled junior officers last month in the second coup in 8 months to hit the country. The inauguration came after the Constitutional Council announced Wednesday that it officially noted the vacancy of the presidency, adding that Traoré had been designated as president of transition, head of state, supreme chief of the National Armed Forces by a national meeting of the country's forces. Over now to Nigeria, where a group of armed bandits Tuesday attacked a hospital in the northwest, killing at least 2 people and kidnapping many doctors and pharmacists. The attack on the Abdul Salam Abubakar General Hospital in Gulu in Niger State was the latest of the regular armed attacks on public institutions in that part of Nigeria. A local witness quoted by AFP said the gunmen stormed the hospital around 1:30 a.m. and opened the fire indiscriminately, killing 2 people on the spot. The same witness said the attackers also took about 20 people hostage, including several medical staff. Separately, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors told Reuters that 20 of its members have been kidnapped this year, causing some of them to leave the country partly due to a lack of safety. Armed bandits operating for cash have kidnapped or killed hundreds across northwest Nigeria. Niger state officials have said that the militant group Boko Haram had taken over multiple communities in the state, offering villagers money and incorporating them into their ranks to fight the government. Still in Nigeria, the authorities said more than 600 people have died and 1.3 million displaced from their homes in flooding that has hit 33 of the country's 36 states and the capital, Abuja. The government blamed the severe flooding on an unusually heavy rainy season aggravated by climate change and the discharge of excess water from a dam. In a statement, Sadia Omar Farouk, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, said more than 108,000 hectares of farmland have been submerged and critical infrastructure such as roads have been destroyed. More than 200,000 homes have been partially or completely destroyed as well. Chad's transitional president, Mohamed Idris Deby Itno, Wednesday declared a state of emergency over flooding that has so far affected more than 1 million people in the Central African country. In a televised address, he said the move would enable the authorities to better contain and manage the disaster. AFP reported that residents of the capital in N'Djamena were building dikes and using their dugout canoes to leave the flooded areas, with around half of the city underwater. In Sierra Leone, Monday's state-led burial of 27 civilians killed in August riots sparked controversy as families frowned at the government for not handing the bodies over for family-led burial. These 27 buried by the state at the Bolima Cemetery in the Waterloo district of the capital Freetown following a ceremony at the Connaught Hospital mortuary. Families disputed police accounts of their deaths. On August 10, a protest about the cost of living spiraled into deadly clashes between the security forces and young people calling for President Julius Maada Bio to resign. Violence erupted, resulting to the deaths of the 27 civilians and 6 police officers. The trial of Kunti Camara, a Liberian on charges of crimes against humanity, has opened in the French capital, Paris. Camara, a former battlefront commander of the United Liberation Movement of Liberia, is being tried at the French Court of Appeal for crimes against humanity, torture, and acts of barbarism allegedly committed in Liberia between 1993 and 1994. Known as Kunti K, among other names, the 48-year-old is being prosecuted under the legal principles of universal jurisdiction, which says that crimes committed against all of humanity know no borders and can be tried anywhere in the world. Senegal may be just under 2 years away from the next presidential election, but tensions and anxieties ahead of the polls are already high. On Sunday, supporters of the main opposition leader, Ousmane Sonko, cried foul after they were dispersed by the gendarmerie, who accused them of holding an illegal gathering. Ousmane Sonko, 49, candidate for the presidential election 2024, announced last week Saturday a national tour with mainly proximity visits to relatives, religious leaders, and officials of his party. In Bour, a town 80 kilometers south of Dakar, where the tour began on Sunday, the gendarmerie intervened to disperse a crowd that was following him, according to his officials. Sonko accused the gendarmerie of executing illegal orders. Guinea's main opposition, Union of Democratic Forces of Guinea, or UFDG, has accused the police of kidnapping one of its senior officials. According to the party, Selou Balde was picked up Monday by the police without a court summon or warrant. UFDG said Balde, a fierce critic of the military junta, was picked up by police officers in 2 gendarmerie pickups after he came out of a meeting in the suburbs of Conakry. He is said to have been driven to an unknown destination. Selou Balde is the party's representative in the Labe region in the north. The Ghanaian cedi Monday emerged as the world's worst performing currency after losing over 45% of its value to the US dollar this year. Bloomberg reports that the cedi lost 3.3% of its value against the dollar to sell at 1.27 cedis to $1 US. From January to October 2022, this cedi has depreciated by 45.1% to the dollar, the worst among 148 currencies tracked by Bloomberg. Ghana is facing economic hardships characterized by skyrocketing inflation. The deteriorating economic situation recently forced the finance minister Ken Ofori-Atta to ask the International Monetary Fund (IMF) for a bailout program, just a few weeks after boasting that Ghana was a proud nation and proud people and that it would not need the IMF to restore macroeconomic stability. You are listening to Africa This Week on Home Digital FM with me, Bojang Jnr. A reminder of our top stories. Burkina Faso's junta leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, inaugurated as president. 3 UN peacekeepers killed when their vehicle hit an improvised explosive device in northern Mali, and over 600 people have died and 1.3 million displaced from their homes in flooding that has hit 33 of Nigeria's 36 states and the capital, Abuja. Still ahead in the program, sports and more. Stay tuned.
Africa This Week on Home Digital FM 99.9.
Now to other stories that made headlines over the week outside the frontiers of West Africa. First to Uganda, where President Yoweri Museveni seemed to have enough of the problematic tweets of his son, a powerful military general in the Ugandan army. General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the 48-year-old eldest son of Museveni, is notorious for using his Twitter handle to make controversial but also disturbing and offensive statements. In his series of messages on Twitter on October 3rd, he criticized former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta for not running for re-election last August, even though the constitution in Kenya barred him from serving more than 2 terms. President Museveni, one of Africa's longest-serving leaders, apologized to Kenya 2 days later and blamed his son for interfering in the affairs of Kenya. But when the son tweeted again that it would not take him and his army 2 weeks to invade the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, his father removed him from his post as commander of Uganda's ground forces. On Monday, President Museveni told a local Ugandan TV station that his son would no longer tweet about the country's affairs. He said General Kainerugaba would still be able to express himself on social media as long as he limited his comments to sports, for example. But the general fought back, declaring that no one would ban him from Twitter. I am an adult and no one will ban me from anything, he tweeted at 9 p.m. on Monday. Still in Uganda, a group of 13 journalists and lawyers have petitioned the Constitutional Court to nullify new amendments in the Computer Misuse Act on grounds that they are illegal and violate the freedom of expression. They have sued the Attorney General over the issue. Their suit stemmed from the decision taken on September 8 by the Parliament to pass the Computer Misuse Amendment Act 2022, which was subsequently assented to by the President last week. The law, among other things, criminalizes the use of photo on social media without the express permission of the owners. It also criminalizes recording another person's voice or video without their consent and unauthorized access to personal information. But the petitioners argued that the said amendments are overly broad, imprecise, and unjustifiably limit the freedom of expression. Michael Abonika and Alain Shempala are human rights lawyers who are against these amendments. Their interviews are courtesy of NTV Uganda. First, Michael.
We see a lot of impunity happening. People are being beaten. There are reckless drivers on the roads. What the law is saying, that actually you can't share that video. You can't share it unless you get the consent of that person. Now, tell me, how easy is it for you to get consent of a military person battering a Ugandan?
Our parliament didn't labor to explain what it means by hate speech. Where does it end? Where does it stop? They rather just described, not defined hate speech.
That if you use social media in a way that contradicts the laws of Uganda. Now, what is that? What does that mean? Now, this is an attack on what we call digital space. The physical space is taken. Ugandans can no longer go on the street.
With sober judges, definitely, I guarantee you that this law will be challenged, and then it won't stand the test of time.
Ugandan human rights lawyers Michael Abonika and Alain Shempala. Soundbite courtesy of NTV Uganda. Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu has urged women in her country to use birth control to reduce the nation's high birth rates. According to the local media, she made the call while on a visit to the western region of Geita over the weekend, noting that continuous baby boom would impede service delivery to the large population in the future. The president's position is a major reversal from that of her predecessor, the late John Magufuli, who openly encouraged women not to use contraception. According to the 2020 World Bank estimates, Tanzania, with a population of around 60 million people, 49 of them living on less than $2 a day, had a fertility rate of 4.8 births per woman. The high birth rate was attributed to early marriage and low use of contraception. The Law Society of Kenya has threatened the legal action against Kenya's Director of Public Prosecution, Nurdin Haji, over alleged withdrawal of high-profile cases involving individuals linked to new President William Ruto, including one of his cabinet nominees. The Law Society and opposition leaders have warned the DPP to clear the air on why he withdrew such cases from court, calling it an abuse of prosecutorial powers. The group's president, Eric Thori, issued a statement in Nairobi.
Before any prosecution is commenced, the DPP reviews the file under the decision to charge guidelines and only approve the charges if the investigations reveal a probable case against the suspects. This is a sacrosanct duty that the Constitution placed upon the office of the DPP to ensure that the public interest is protected and the criminal process is not used for other motives. We are therefore alarmed by the recent decisions by the DPP as they point to either two very disturbing scenarios. One, that the prosecutions were mounted for ulterior purposes whose end have been achieved or overtaken by events, or two, that the DPP has withdrawn the cases to aid an ulterior motive. The Director of Public Prosecution therefore owes the country an explanation as to the reason informing the discontinuation of cases.
Eric Thori, the president of Law Society of Kenya. In another development, Kenya's President William Ruto had dissolved a police unit accused of extrajudicial killings in a move hailed by human rights groups. The Special Service Unit, or SSU, which was created more than 2 decades ago, has been in the spotlight as disappearances and murders in Kenya soared in recent years. The unit was linked to decomposed bodies of several people discovered in River Yala and other rivers in Kenya. Ruto announced the dissolution of the SSU during an event in Nairobi and vowed to overhaul Kenya's security sector.
That is the history we want to forget. Let our competitors not remind us of the many things they did against this country. We have also a plan on how to secure this country so that we avoid the shame of Kenyans killed through extrajudicial killings and put in Yala River and other rivers. We're going to secure this country going into the future. So I want to promise the people of Kenya that Kenya is on sound footing, and we have a plan that will take this country into the future.
Kenyan President William Ruto. The United Nations Refugee Agency, UNHCR, Wednesday expressed concern over a cholera outbreak in the Minawayo refugee camp in Cameroon's far north region. 3 people have died and 39 cases have been identified in the camp, according to the agency. It said it was working with the Cameroonian government, other UN agencies and partners to ensure urgent care for those who have fallen ill and to break the chain of transmission. Minawayo refugee camp's growing population has nearly doubled from 40,000 in 2015 to its current 75,000. Tunisians in the southeastern city of Zaziz Tuesday took to the streets for protest to demand explanation from the authorities after victims of a migrant shipwreck were allegedly buried without DNA analysis. AFP report said protesters demanded a renewed search for relatives who went missing in a failed migration attempt. 4 weeks ago, 18 Tunisians boarded a boat headed for Italy before it sank. 4 people suspected of being missing Tunisians were buried in a nearby cemetery for foreign migrants, allegedly without efforts to identify them. Those bodies have since been exhumed for identification, while another 2 bodies believed to be Tunisians were found. South African women's rights groups and sex workers Tuesday demonstrated outside a Johannesburg court as a 21-year-old man appeared in connection with the discovery of 6 decomposed bodies believed to be those of sex workers. The man appeared in the dock with his face covered by a black cloth to hide his identity, according to an AFP report. He said to have been arrested last week when police discovered the bodies at a car repair workshop in downtown Johannesburg while investigating the disappearance of one sex worker who was allegedly last seen with the suspect. Local reports quoted the police as saying that some of the bodies were found with their hands tied and they had evidently been in the building for a long period of time. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Monday warned that the situation in northern Ethiopia was spiraling out of control and ruled out any military solution to the conflict. In a statement in New York, the UN chief said the international community must come together to end the nearly 2-year-old conflict which has killed and injured thousands and left millions on the brink of starvation.
Violence and destruction have reached alarming levels. The social fabric is being reached. In the Tigray region of Ethiopia must end now, including the immediate withdrawal and disengagement of Eritrean armed forces from Ethiopia. There is no military solution. Civilians are paying a horrific price. Damaging critical infrastructure and limiting access to vital services. Hundreds of thousands of people have been forced to flee their homes since hostilities resumed in August, many of them for the second time. And we are also hearing disturbing accounts of sexual violence and other acts of brutality against women, children, and men. All parties must adhere to their obligations under international humanitarian law. Civilians must be protected, and so too humanitarian workers who are being attacked and even killed, delivering life-saving humanitarian aid. The level of need is staggering.
The UN Chief Antonio Guterres. Now to sports. It was all smile for Senegal and Bayern Munich's Sadio Mane on Monday night as he became the first recipient of the Socrates Award during the Ballon d'Or award ceremony in the French capital. France football's inaugural Socrates Award has been established to recognize accomplishments off the pitch and has been named after the Brazilian footballer Socrates, who was well known for his humanitarian work during his playing days. He co-founded the Corinthians democracy movement to oppose the military government in Brazil in the 1980s. Mane, who missed out on the main Ballon d'Or award to France and Real Madrid's Karim Benzema, was awarded the Socrates Award for his humanitarian work in his hometown Bambali in Senegal's Casamance region. Here's the moment the winner was announced, followed by Mane's brief speech.
Sadio Mane.
So the first winner of the Socrates Award goes to Sadio Mane, a Senegalese star. A message before from Prince Albert of Monaco, and tribute to Socrates. Once a year for Mane, only an African champion with the Senegal. His team also qualifying for this year's World Cup as well. Now he has the Socrates trophy in his hands.
Sadio, you said that you don't really care about money or fame. The only important thing for you is to give back. Ladies and gentlemen, this man here gives everything back to his country. He builds hospitals and schools in his hometown in Bama.
First of all, I want to say good evening, everybody. Well, I think you said it a lot, so myself, I'm really happy to be part of you guys tonight, and of course, like we said, I'm sometimes a bit shy to talk about it, but I'm really happy to do what I can for our people and to make maybe things better.
Thank you, Sadio. Please.
Thank you, Sergio.
Thank you.
The one and only Sadio Mane, the winner of France Football's inaugural Socrates Award. Now time for our special guest segment. For many people worldwide, the United States is a fulfillment of a personal dream, an El Dorado, a land of great opportunities. But what is it like for a young woman who is black and an African to arrive in the US all by herself for the first time and setting up a home there with a family? Madam Gay migrated from her native Senegal as a young woman on a scholarship program many years ago. Fast forward the story, today she is Associate Professor of African and African Diaspora Literature at East Carolina University in North Carolina.
I had all these ideas about America. I mean, you see it in movies, you see it, and you think of it as this bigger than big place, and this thing that is like, it's not a monster, but it is this just other being that is bigger than life. And you have all these dreams and aspirations that so many things are possible. Everything is possible there. Whatever, the sky is the limit, so to say. So I had the luck or the butt luck of coming to America or going to America and landing in a very small, tiny town. Of course, I flew through New York, and that experience has actually inspired my short story, Welcome to the Big Apple, where I missed my flight connecting to St. Louis and going to Memphis, Tennessee, and found myself during my first day in America as a foreigner, knowing nobody and wandering around at JFK Airport. So we fast forward, and I come to this town in Arkansas that is so small that everybody knows everybody, and you could walk to everywhere. And these people pretty much had not seen somebody from Africa that close. And they'll come and touch your hair and touch you. And you become this center of attraction. And you know how growing up in Senegal, when you see a white person, you go, "Tuwa, tuwa, tuwa." In Arkansas, people will see me and go, "Oh, the African lady's right there, the African lady's right there." So you become the center of attention for everyone. And the first thing that shocked me was the fact that they did not know much about Africa at all. And some people assumed that they were kind of curious to know how I got there. Did I walk there? They didn't even know that that planes went to where I lived, and that I boarded a plane and came there. So it was that unbelievable.
Did that scare you?
It didn't scare me. It kind of surprised me that here I was, and I knew so much about America from reading about America, for watching movies about America, studying geography and history, and knowing about American wars and all of those things. And they knew nothing about my part of the world. And they didn't even know that Africa has 50-something countries. I was just shocked that, oh my God, we spent our time studying about these people, and they don't know that we exist. Or if they know that we exist, they think we exist in a specific way that matches the stereotypes of Africa, that we don't have houses, we don't wear clothes. People ask me, where did I get the suits that I was wearing? Did I buy them in New York, or stuff like that? So you have very rural areas where people know nothing. They have not come out of they have never boarded a plane themselves.
They would never have heard of Senegal.
No, not only have they not heard of Senegal, but they never left their little village. They have never been to New York. They have never been to any other bigger place. So they like the villagers that know nothing about anything.
we've seen the police attitude towards African blacks in America, African Americans in particular. I would call it the police killing spree of blacks. And you wrote a poem about it titled Can't Breathe, which I suppose is a reference to an African American who was suffocated by the police before he met his end. And his last words were, I can't breathe. And in this poem, you talk about your two boys and then being concerned for your two boys. Are you scared for them, worried for them?
I am. And I think any mother of a black child in America, especially a black boy, is scared at this time because in the past 3 years, you have seen the killing spree of black men in America. I'm not saying that it didn't happen before, but this frequency is terrifying. And often it happens with impunity. And this is at the end of the police who are supposed to protect us. But with the racial profiling that police does, I think most times, and I'm not saying there are not good policemen in America, but with issues of race and profiling, things that white people do and get away with, if black people have done, they will not get away with. There is a tendency to even say that when white people kill, they are arrested with no problems. Usually, they're handcuffed and taken. And for example, the person who killed those churchgoers in Charleston, people say that when they arrested him, they took him to a McDonald's and bought him food before taking him to jail. Had he been a black person, we don't think he would have been alive. He would have been shot and killed. So the police's attitude most times with black suspect is very different with white suspect. A black person is a suspect all the time. You cannot walk around in a neighborhood that is nice and clean without people looking at you and thinking that you don't belong there, because to them, black people belong in the ghetto. I live in a neighborhood that's very small, very nice houses. And every time I drive to go to my house, I see the looks that people give me as if, okay, does she really live here? On a daily basis.
And your two boys, they're very young boys. Do you sometimes have conversation with them about this issue?
We do, because it's something that you cannot avoid. It's all over the TV. They see that black men are being killed. It's all over the news. And I think it's imperative that you have these kind of discussions with them. I remember very well one night we were driving to the beach and I think I ran a traffic light and the police stopped me. And I was talking to the police. I had my hands on the steering wheel. And I was trying to model to my kids in the back that this is what you do when the police stops you, so that you don't have any reason for them to shoot you. And this is heartbreaking because as young children, you have to tell them that. I don't think white mothers have to do that.
Our special guest, Dr. Maram Gueye, a Senegalese-born associate professor of African and African diaspora literatures at East Carolina University in North Carolina. And that brings us to the end of this maiden edition of the Week in Review program, Africa This Week, on Home Digital FM 99.9. I'm your producer and presenter, Sheriff Bojang Jnr. And we'll end today's show with Dr. Maram Gueye's emotional poem, Can't Breathe. Enjoy and see you next week for another edition. Bye for now.
Oh, freedom. I can't breathe. I came to this place to catch my breath, but there is no air for me here. I can't breathe. I became black in this place. My skin color denies me the right to pure air. I can't breathe. And in dangerous spaces, black boys are condemned to death before they are born. I can't breathe. Those strange fruits that once hung on trees are now dropping under your guns. I can't breathe.
Oh, freedom, freedom. Oh, freedom.
Like Pharaoh, they're hunting for boys, chocolate-colored boys. I can't breathe. 2 of those boys are mine. I can't breathe. I lay awake at night worrying about their future. I can't breathe. Your madness is a chokehold on my throat that lets no air come in and out. I can't breathe.
Oh, my Lord, and be free.
Africa This Week, a new program that features and analyzes all the top news and events that took place across the continent during the week, is coming on Home Digital FM. The 1 hour week in review program will exhibit experts and commentators to look back on the news of the past 7 days and break down stories and issues across Africa that everyone is talking about. Africa This Week will feature guest of the week and engage people at the center of every key news, every story in the best interactive, entertaining and informative way possible. Africa This Week on Home Digital FM 99.9 every Saturday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. starting from next Saturday, October 22nd. Africa This Week with me, Bojang Jnr. See you there.
Yona Forex Bureau. Badimori Yona Forex Bureau mi yalon ko felaliye serakunda bambo wollamu dulati dami yalon ko kodikiyo anin kodi falingo nyinu mu nyonta ondet. Yona Forex Bureau iturbaliye bambole ando feleye kunda basotale lat bakote mi yalon ko wolam Popul House ti. Mbadimori atolo mi yalon ko albe banko e bantala. Na lafta kodo kila nyinkamala alla mole ay tariya andaliye minki ye wosoto tariya nyama alfero ke aliyakini Yona Forex Bureau la altulumini yalon ko fanal Gambia na lafta kodol de fali da kabiri euro lomba fo pound lomba wala fo dollar ni nyin kodi dolu Yona Forex londo late mini yalon ko e kadadi madi mi yalon ko ase kontan ando ni nyin kodi dolu fanam be bulu e lafta ke fali ni dala sola wala badi ngolon kamune bato alnga ferol ke nganna kodol kini Yona Forex Bureau la anin nganna falindirol keni Yona Forex Bureau la dami yalon ko mbe bane hoda male sotola wakamara na lafta kuma ko sotola nyinol beto ali kumandi da telefono to 9000392683215173389998055526 badi ngolu Yona Forex Bureau wolle nata kan dahandi kodi kiyola anin kodi fali wala fannala wala Yona Forex Bureau ala baraka jarama.
Organization.
Home Digital FM 99.9 99.9 in Brikama Town. For all the businessmen and women, move out of the darkness, follow the light. Come sell your business with us today. Home Digital FM, let your customers know what you're offering. Be on top of your competitors. Home Digital FM, we will help you stand out. Come advertise with us today for all your businesses. We offer live program coverage both on Facebook Live and on the radio. Exos to sell your products and services. The media is in control. Tell your customers when, where, and how to meet you through Home Digital FM. Don't worry. Do your business. We will sell you out. Call us today on 734-3125 or 200-5770, 620-1413, 766-8394. Home Digital FM. Follow the light.